Today we're going to be looking at a few fishing plugs. We've got a bit of a mixture here. I picked all these up. We've got some Zebco ones, and we've got some from Lineaeffe. It's a Linnaeus version of the crystal minnow. And we'll be taking a closer look at these. Now, as far as plugs go, these ones are not expensive. They're actually pretty damn cheap. Now, when you're buying cheap plugs, you will find there are a lot of rubbish ones out there that just don't work. Now, whether it's the fittings they put on them, or whether it's when you're actually using them, quite often the problem you'll get is the fin at the front here. It just doesn't work properly, or it's not set right, and so your lure ends up twisting in the water. You might be fine when you're trailing slowly. If you speed up the trail, you might suddenly find it kicks out. Now, you can actually fix this sometimes by adjusting the pin in the nose, but not always. If it's a little bit, yeah, you can fix it. If it's too much on that fin, or that fin's too short or too narrow, then it won't necessarily work, and that's usually what causes some of the cheap lures to be a lot more rubbish. But saying that doesn't mean all cheap lures are bad. I've had some really good ones before. So like I say, and all these here are pretty cheap. This one here is a little bit more expensive, and you can see that straight away by the fact it's got galvanised hooks and just build quality of it. But like I say, we're going to take them out of their boxes, have a closer look, and see what we've actually bought. Right, we're going to start with these two from Lineaeffe. Now, I've had and seen Lineaeffe reels before, a long time ago, and I had one and it just literally lasted a day. I actually found the same reel a few weeks later, identical, in the sea, and that was a brand new one, and I think somebody else had exactly the same experience. The one thing I have noticed about is their build quality. In the past I've noticed that it hasn't been good. Now, I believe these lures are not actually made by Lineaeffe. I think they're made by a Japanese company, and they're sold by Lineaeffe or imported by Lineaeffe. That's as far as I know. I could be completely wrong on that, but that's what I'm to understand. Although, like I say, I'm sure Lineaeffe does make some good products. I've probably just come across the rubbish parts. But like I say, attention to detail is always a bit of an issue. So let's open these things up. They're a pain in the ass to get into. And we will have a look, a closer inspection of this. So there's your lure. Now it looks okay. This one is, let me just have a look at the detail of it. This is 13 gram and 11 centimeters long. It seems to be built okay. It has a slight cup in the front fin there, which they do sometimes on the smaller ones. When you get these too small, they don't work too well, but having that cup can sometimes help. The fittings. Now, the fittings, this is something that's quite important. It looks like they got stainless through rod, but these hooks look very cheap. They also look a bit too small. You'll see that they're actually quite tiny for this lure. What I probably would do is increase the size of the hook for my kind of fishing. Some people will use this and use the small hooks. For me, I fish for sea bass, pollock, and they've all got large mouths, and you need a bigger hook. I mean, a bass will basically pull these out, and I think these are going to rust pretty damn quick. They're just chromed. The actual ring that goes to the lure itself there does actually look like it's chromed. It doesn't look like it's stainless. I could be wrong again, but that, to me, because I can see that the actual ring in the fish itself is stainless, but you'll see it's very shiny, a little bit too shiny for stainless. Although, like I say, not 100% certain that. What I'll do is I will test all these lures. It won't be in this video, because just taking this lure out, chucking it in the sea, might tell you it might swim okay, but it doesn't tell you more than that. This lure, we want to find out if this catches fish, how it works, low speed, high speed, and whether it's got any flaws. And the flaws being is things like this. Is this ring stainless, or is it just steel that's going to rust? The hooks, well, I'm probably going to change those hooks straight away on this one, because like I said, they're just too small. I might try it out for a little bit to start with, so we'll get some idea of that. And what I'll do is I'll post underneath a comment with details of this lure as it gets used. So when the video first goes up, you're just going to see details of the lure like this, and then later on, if you look down the comments, I'll pin it to the top telling you a bit more about the lure, if I've used it, does it work, does it go rotten, does anything break, does it swim properly, and all those kind of things. Right, so that's that one. Now this one basically is identical, it's just a different colour, but we'll check it out as well, because that one the quality seemed okay. And this one, fin looks good again. Fin looks, yeah, looks fairly straight. The rings again, like I say, I'm a bit dubious about those rings and those hooks, but all in all they look okay at the moment, those ones. Now I just want to show you something. Take those out of the way. This here, this is an old plug that I've used for years. You can see this is the problem with some of the plugs these days, is they put transfers on almost, and they literally peel off when you use them. The old lures, I used to just paint them and they lasted for years. Now you'll see here, if I can get that close enough in focus, that joint there is stainless. And like I said, I've been using this plug a lot. Everything on it, apart from the hooks, obviously they've gone rusty from use. This plug is perfectly fine, very good plug. It's called a Devil's Own, and it has caught fish, and it's caught bass, and it's caught them at night as well, so it does work quite well, this lure. Moving ahead 6 months, a year later, I buy another one, and here it is. This is a blue one, but it's the same plug, it's a Devil's Own. You can see it's in very good condition, because it's literally been used once or twice, that's all. But you'll notice here, I don't know if you can see that on the ring, but that ring there is rusting and pitting, and it's eating away, and the same thing there, and the same thing on the back one, actually in the lure. And it seems that they, you know, some of these lures now, they put in cheap garbage, and they start off alright and then they get cheaper and cheaper. And I'll show you, because this one here is the same lure. I bought 2 of them, and you can see there I pulled on it to test it, because I saw the rust, and it basically just broke and it's eaten away. And like I say, this lure has been used once or twice, and the same thing is happening to all the under here. It's all pitted and eaten away, which basically destroys this lure, and it's had 2 uses, and here as well. So this is what sometimes you'll find with cheaper lures. These lures weren't that expensive either, but as you saw from the first one, they were perfectly fine. A year later they're using cheaper parts, or sneaking in steel parts, and it's basically making a lure which is just a complete waste of money. I mean, it's probably okay if you use it in the fresh water, but for salt water it literally rotted within 2 uses. You know, to the point where I could pull that and snap it, and a bass would find that weakness straight away. So, utter rubbish. Right, onto the Zebco lures. So we'll start with this one. This is a Zebco Tool Flyer. It's 110 centimeters. 10.5 centimeters. And it is a blue mackerel floating. So, look at it closer. Right, again, hooks, plated, not galvanised ones, not necessarily the best. I mean, they are sharp, but they won't last you long, put it that way. These sort of things, they work fine. They're big enough, they're bigger than the other ones, or we had on the other lure. The body looks good. It looks like it's sprayed, actually, this one. It might have transfers, a little bit of transfer on the side, but the bodywork has been sprayed. Not sure what that slot's for, what it does, whether that's for adding lead to make it sink, maybe, or maybe it has something to do with its stability in the water or causing bubbles. I don't know. Now the fin is actually a flat fin, and it's also got, I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually quite a big casting tab. I assume that's what it is. I don't think it's actually for structure. It's where it's been glued sort of together, or the seam. So it's not finished exceptionally well, although might be worth trying that with it on and removing it if it doesn't work so well. Again, I'd probably look at changing these hooks, and the rings, once again, they look like they're chromed rings, not, or a metal ring as opposed to a stainless ring. The ring inside the body of the fish looks to be stainless, but it might have spray on it as well, making it greyer than it actually is. So again, gonna have to look at this one and see how well it works, and we'll put it again in the description or as a comment pinned under the video if you want to find out more in the future. Right, next one, the blaster. Now the blaster again is another Zebco lure, and this one is 10 centimeters, and it dives between half a meter and a meter. So a bit more info on that one, which is always what I like to know, is the depth that these things will run at, because it's a very important part actually. Not so much if you're casting stuff ashore and you're just running the surface, but if you're in a boat you want to know how far it goes. Now again, hooks, sharp but cheap, plated, nasty hooks. The lure itself though, this lure looks much better quality. The finish is good, the paint job is very nice on it. There's a bit of weight to this as well. Does it actually say the weight on this? It doesn't. No, it doesn't. But being called a blaster, I suppose, you know, that says it all. Now the rings, a bit of glue on that one. They look okay. They look a bit thin, but should be fine. But all in all, the quality of this one is much better, and I think that'll be very successful actually. That one. Again, the hooks aren't bad on this one. They're big enough. What you don't want is when you put hooks on, don't make them so big that they'll touch. If they touch, they can hook together when you're casting. So another thing, when you put bigger hooks on, you know, people turn around and say, oh well, they're designed for swimming in special ways and that, but I've actually found sometimes putting bigger hooks on, if you're having trouble with the lure twisting or going wrong and you've tried bending the nose and getting it to work and it still doesn't work, if you put bigger hooks on it, it often will stabilise the lure. Because of the drag, it'll cause the lure not to want to kick out so much. So, and if your lure is crazy, like wobbles, I mean sometimes you get this action, and this action's good, but if it does it overkill and goes absolutely mental, for some species I found it's terrible. It's too unnatural, they go too far with it. I've got lures like that look absolutely incredible in the water, but they just don't take fish, and it's that subtle difficulty that the fish may be acting a bit over the top, and it's a bit odd to the predator. So you can calm that down with bigger lures, it does help. And like I say, I tend to up the hook size, and it'll take your lure down a little bit as well if it's a little bit too shallow. So little tips you can try, but it's all about trial and error really. I mean, just go out and test it, you know, try the lure as it is. If it's not catching, try slightly bigger hooks on it. You know, move this if you're getting trouble with it swimming, move this left and right to stop it spinning out. As far as the fin goes, you can't do much if it's, you know, that bad and that big a problem, then it's just not worth a lure using. And these lures, like I say, are cheap, they don't cost much at all, so you know, go and find something else. These things, like I say, you pay your money, you take a chance with the cheap ones, and sometimes you'll be surprised just how well some of these will work. Others, you'll probably throw them in the bin straight away. Right, finally, this is a slightly more expensive one. This is B-Mac, and it's 110 millimeters or 11 centimeters, 30 gram. And this one is designed to go deep. Now I've had lures like this. I don't know how deep this particular one goes, but I've had lures similar with a big fin. In fact, the fins on them are even bigger than this, and I've not had a lot of luck with them. And I think because the ones I've got, the fin is like this wide. It's almost as big as a lure. So I think that's what stops it. This one actually looks a lot better. It's got a much narrower fin. Hopefully that it will dive without any problems and not kick out. Now this is a purple one. I've never had a purple one, but I do know from when I dive that purple's like the last colour you'll see as you go deep. You know, you'll dive down, everything will be greyed out at the bottom of the ocean, and you'll see a purple starfish, and you'll actually see the colour purple, but every other colour you just won't see. So it's got its advantages for that. It will stand out in deeper water just for the light that gets through. That purple will show up. Whether it catches fish, don't know yet, but that's something we're going to find out. Now the fittings on this are much better. That's definitely stainless, all the pins are stainless, the hooks are galvanised, and those split rings do actually look stainless on this one. But like I say, we won't know 100% until we actually get it in the water. Now I know my old lure like this, when the bigger one like that, you need to run it in at least below 20 or deeper than 20 feet of water. I think it goes down about 15-20 feet in the water, which is quite deep. And if you're trying to get down over a reef or something that's under the water, they can be really good. If they catch, like I said, the one with the big fin. I do have a really big one, like a massive one that I use and that also has a huge fin, and that one does catch, but that's almost, you know, that one's double the size of this one. So again, it all depends on where you are in the world and what you're fishing for. I mean, I fish UK waters, fish for bass, pollock, all those kind of species, you know, coalfish, anything like that. So we will try it and we will see. So anyway, like I say, I will put a description, well, under the description I'll put a comment when I've actually used some of these and started to see if they're rusting or if they catch and if they swim well, just so it gives you a better idea. Because like I say, looking at a lure and just saying, oh, that's a good lure, or chucking it in the water a couple of times saying, yeah, that's brilliant, it doesn't mean anything. So we need to test it over a bit of time, like everything. So there you go, there's some plugs.